Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today, we have a spine-chilling story that will make your skin crawl. A story that may have you second-guessing every creak and shadow in your home. This is the terrifying tale of the Johnson family, who thought they had found their dream home, but ended up unearthing something far more sinister. So grab your popcorn, dim the lights, and let's dive into the dark history of a house that should have never been disturbed. The dream home. The Johnsons were an average family of 4, hoping to find a home where they could build a future together. Sarah, a loving mother, was the backbone of the family, always keeping everything organized and full of love. Mike, a steady, hard-working father, dreamed of a home where his family could grow and thrive. Their 2 children, Lily, a bubbly and imaginative 9-year-old, and Jake, a quiet, introspective 6-year-old, completed their picture-perfect family. After months of searching, they stumbled upon a stunning Victorian house, perched at the end of a quiet street in a quaint little town. The house was a marvel, with its aged but beautiful architecture, large bay windows, and a wraparound porch that Sarah could already imagine decorating for the holidays. Sarah, when we first saw the house, it felt like it was calling to us. The intricate woodwork, the high ceilings, and the big backyard. It seemed like the perfect place for our kids to grow up. Mike, I couldn't believe we found a house with such history and character. It was everything we wanted. A space that felt lived in, but still had so much potential for new memories. It seemed like a dream come true. The price was shockingly low, but the family chalked it up to the fact that older homes often required more maintenance. Little did they know, this house had a much darker history that would soon make itself known. A new beginning. Excited for their fresh start, the Johnsons eagerly moved into the house, spending their first days painting, decorating, and envisioning their future there. The kids picked out their rooms, and Sarah was especially pleased with the kitchen, where she imagined countless family dinners and baking sessions. At first, the house seemed warm, inviting even. They hosted a small housewarming party, inviting neighbors and friends to see their new home. Everyone commented on how beautiful the house was, though a few older neighbors exchanged glances and whispered about the rumors surrounding it. But the Johnsons didn't pay much attention to the idle chatter. They were too excited about their new life. However, it wasn't long before things started to feel off. Lily, sometimes I would hear creaking noises at night, but I thought it was just the house settling. Then, I started hearing whispers. Sarah, I thought it was my imagination at first, but when the kids started mentioning things they saw or heard, I began to feel uneasy. The strange occurrences begin. The first few weeks passed uneventfully, but slowly, strange occurrences started creeping in. At first, it was little things, objects disappearing only to reappear in odd places, the temperature dropping inexplicably, and the unmistakable feeling that they were being watched. One night, while everyone was asleep, Mike was jolted awake by the sound of footsteps echoing through the hallway. He immediately got out of bed, thinking it was one of the kids, but when he checked their rooms, they were both fast asleep. Confused, he returned to bed, dismissing it as his imagination. But the footsteps became more frequent, sometimes accompanied by faint whispers that neither he nor Sarah could explain. The tension in the house grew palpable, especially at night. The once cozy and warm space began to feel oppressive, as if the house itself was closing in on them. Sarah, I'd wake up in the middle of the night, feeling like someone was standing at the foot of our bed. I'd turn the light on, but there was never anyone there. It became impossible to sleep peacefully. Uncovering the house's dark history, concerned and desperate for answers, Sarah and Mike began to dig into the house's history. They visited the local library, speaking with historians and sifting through old records. What they found was nothing short of terrifying. The house had been built over a century ago by a secretive and wealthy family who, according to local legend, had ties to a cult. It was said that this cult performed dark rituals in the basement, attempting to summon spirits and harness supernatural powers. Over the years, several families had lived in the house, but many left abruptly, citing strange occurrences, illness, or even madness. One particularly chilling discovery was that a previous owner had become possessed, acting violently and erratically until they were institutionalized. The local papers from that time described the house as being cursed, and neighbors had avoided it for decades. Sarah, when we found out about the house's past, it was like everything started making sense. We were living in a place that had seen so much darkness. Mike, I didn't want to believe it at first. I've always been a skeptic, but there was no denying that something was wrong in that house. Jake's disturbing behavior. As the paranormal activity intensified, Jake, their youngest child, began to change. The once shy and quiet boy became withdrawn, staring off into space for long periods and talking to himself in a low, unsettling voice. Sarah first noticed Jake's odd behavior one afternoon when she heard him laughing softly in his room. She assumed he was playing with his toys, but when she walked in, she found him sitting on the floor, facing the corner of the room, whispering to someone who wasn't there. Sarah, I asked him who he was talking to, and he just turned to me and said, "They're my friends." It sent chills down my spine. Mike tried to brush it off as an overactive imagination, but Jake's behavior continued to escalate. He began to have violent outbursts, lashing out at his sister and speaking in a voice that didn't sound like his own. His parents became increasingly alarmed as he started claiming he could see people in the house, people who weren't there. Mike, one night, I heard Jake talking in his room again, and when I went to check on him, he was standing by the window, staring into the dark. When I asked him what he was doing, he said, "They're outside. They want to come in." I'll never forget the look on his face. It was like he wasn't our son anymore, desperate for answers. Fearing for their son's safety, Sarah and Mike decided to seek help. They contacted a team of paranormal investigators who specialized in hauntings and possessions. The team arrived with an array of equipment, thermal cameras, EMF meters, and audio recorders to try to capture evidence of the supernatural. During their investigation, the team uncovered strong, malevolent energy throughout the house, especially in Jake's room. They captured unsettling audio recordings of disembodied voices, and one investigator reported feeling a cold hand grip his arm during the investigation. The house had a presence, something that felt deeply unnatural. It was as if the walls themselves were alive with an energy that wanted to harm anyone who lived there. The cleansing ritual. After the investigators confirmed their worst fears, that something malevolent had latched onto Jake, Sarah and Mike decided to perform a cleansing ritual, hoping to rid the house of the dark entity that was terrorizing their family. On the night of the cleansing, the air in the house felt thick with tension. Candles flickered in every room as the paranormal team prepared for the ritual. The family gathered together in the living room, clutching each other, while the investigators began chanting, calling upon protective forces to banish the entity from their home. As the chanting grew louder, the house itself seemed to react. The temperature plummeted, and the walls shook as if resisting the ritual. Jake, who had been sitting quietly, suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream and began to thrash violently, his eyes rolling back into his head. Sarah, I was terrified. It felt like we were losing him. I've never felt so helpless in my life. The investigators continued their chants, their voices rising above the chaos in the room. Slowly, the tension began to lift, and after what felt like hours, the house grew still. Jake collapsed into his mother's arms, exhausted but seemingly back to his old self. The aftermath. In the days that followed, the Johnson family began to heal. The oppressive atmosphere in the house lifted, and Jake returned to his playful, sweet self. But the experience had left a deep mark on all of them. Sarah, we were lucky to escape with our lives and our sanity. Some houses carry more than just memories. They carry the weight of the past. And sometimes, that past is darker than you could ever imagine. The Johnsons chose to stay in the house, but they did so with a new understanding and respect for its history. They filled it with love, laughter, and light, determined to reclaim it from the darkness that had once haunted its halls. Mike, this is our home now. We've faced the fear, and we've made it our own.